Guys, on today's episode, I'm going to tell you a story of something that just happened. My wife and I were going to get into a huge fight, but thankfully I was able to use many of the lessons I've learned in parenting and in marriage to turn that potentially horrific fight into a lovely learning lesson for the family, for the children, and for us to, by the end of it, do a family hug and be very loving with each other. So if you are getting into fights with your spouse in front of the children, this episode is for you. Let's get started. In the movie Inside Out, it's a Pixar movie, there's this concept of foundational memories. And I constantly have that swirling in my head whenever something happens, something important. So for example, something that I remember quite well is that when my daughter was 4 years old, 4 or 5, she asked me about Princess Jasmine and Aladdin. It's like, oh, are they married? I said, yeah, they're married. And she thought about it and she asked me, Poppy, what is love? Or she asked, why does Princess Jasmine love Aladdin? And I'm like, oh my God, this is it. This is the moment I really have to focus. This is going to be a foundational memory. Everything that she thinks about love moving forward is going to stem from this. So it was just funny, something that I remember. Anyways, I bring that up because I feel like today was one of those moments today. My wife and I were going to get into a crazy fight. A crazy huge fight. And I was able, through a positive attitude, something that we have to learn to do, anything is possible with a positive attitude. That's what we say at our house almost every single day. Anything is possible with, and they say, a positive attitude. My 2 daughters. Okay. But with a positive attitude, I was able to turn something that could have been traumatic to the children, their parents fighting over something, into something that was very positive, a teaching lesson for my child. So this is what happened. So first, let me tell you what happened. Last night, my daughter, my 6-year-old, was not feeling well, and she pooped herself in the bed. This is going to get a little weird, right? But okay, let's just be honest. I'll tell you what happened. She pooped herself in the bed. No one knew about it. This morning, my wife walks into the room and finds it, and she freaks out. Now, as an aside, I think my wife has something traumatic with poop. She doesn't like it at all. She freaks out about it, to be honest. That's okay. I'm not judging her. There's some things we like, some things we really don't like, and poop is one of them for her. So she walks in, she freaks out. She's angry, and she's like, Juniper! And she's like, Juniper, what happened here? She's very upset. And I hear this, I'm coming out of the shower, I walk over, and I see Kimball, my almost 4-year-old, and Juniper, my 6-year-old, walking up the stairs, and Juniper's crying, right? She's crying because she could hear the tone of voice from her mom, and I think she also felt ashamed because she knew what happened, but she didn't tell anybody. I think she was hoping that nobody would notice. And I catch that moment. Kim is very upset, my wife. Again, I'm not here to judge. She was very upset. I catch that moment, and I know that I have to do something about it. Because if I don't do something right then and there, this is going to be a traumatic foundational memory for my daughter, right? She did something. She was clearly ashamed of it. She tried to hide it. And now she sees that her mom is upset. This is going to be traumatic. Maybe the same thing and the same feelings with poop that my wife has is going to develop with Juniper. And then in the future, she's going to develop the same fear and anxiety associated with it. I don't want to happen. So it's in that moment, you have to act, and you have to act in the right way. So here's what I did. Now I'm going to tell you what I did, but before I do so, all of this stems from brain development. I'm going to tell you which book this is from. All this comes from The Whole Brain Child, in which it talks about when your child goes through a traumatic event, it's very important to immediately talk about it and go through it and walk through it and resolve it as opposed to hiding it. Because the more you hide it, the more that trauma is going to come up in a future state, in a bad state. Okay, so that's all from the book. So I see that my wife is very upset, and I have to calm the situation down, right? First and foremost, you have to calm the situation down. You can be a little silly with it. Oh my God, just a bunch of poop, right? We got to be silly with it. She kind of giggles. And my wife's like, oh, why didn't you clean this up? She's pointing to me. Okay, and I tell her, you know what's very important? Juniper right now is feeling very upset, and she's feeling very hurt because you're upset and you're reacting this way. Let us take care of it. Let us take care of all of this, and you don't have to worry about it. This solves 2 birds with 1 stone. 1, my wife doesn't have to clean up all this mess, right? So she gets that anxiety off her chest. And two, remember the child, my daughter is feeling bad about this. It gives her a way to take responsibility for her actions and make up for it. So we grabbed everything, we put it in the laundry. We noticed some stains on the floor. I know it's getting funky. We grabbed our cleaning supplies and we started cleaning everything. And then Kimball, my littlest one, my 4-year-old, was a part of this as well. She was cleaning with us. She was putting stuff in the laundry with us. She even told my wife, her mom, Mommy, grace and courtesy. That's something that we always talk about in the household. Talking with grace and courtesy. Okay, so then with my daughter, we just clean everything up. This whole time, I'm talking to her. Look, Juniper. And this is why we're teaching that. We're building that foundation. Mommy was very upset. And that's okay. She's developed potentially this trauma with poop that I don't want you to develop. You know what? This is just something that we need to clean up. When there's a problem, when there's an accident, we can clean it up and we can fix it. And we're fixing this together as a family. I was involved, Kimball was involved. And that makes her feel better because she knows that her family is there to support her. She's not being reprimanded and she's part of the solution. And we're able to do that all. I'm not feeling anxious or mad at my wife. She was getting mad at me, but instead of me escalating as well, I gave her a hug, I gave her a kiss. As the man, as the leader of the household, I have to de-escalate the situation. Hey, I get mad and I lose my temper and my cool all the time. I am not perfect. And I look to my wife to be able to help me in de-escalating those situations. Oftentimes, we'll talk about our breathing techniques that we do with our daughters and how we, when we're in an angry state, we can come back to a more calm state. Let's talk about that in another episode. Anyways, this episode is about a potentially traumatic event, how you can turn it around. And that's what happened. If this had continued, my wife, let's say, would have, in anger and her anxiety, maybe would have yelled at our daughter. That would have developed her traumatic experience. She'd remember this moving forward. She'd have anxiety with poop. The next time that something bad happened, she would want to hide it even more. That's what you don't want. If you teach them that they will be reprimanded if an accident happens, then the next time an accident inevitably does happen, instead of facing it and fixing it and having that ownership to fix it themselves and solve that problem, they're going to try to hide it because they don't want to be blamed for it. So that was important. You can't just clean up the mess for your daughter. They have to be a part of the solution. The person who's upset, you have to remove them from the situation. Give them a hug, give them a kiss, tell them you understand. Don't be mad at them for them being mad. Tell them you understand and then move them. Remove them from the situation and handle it with your kids. All right. I hope this was helpful. Let's do a quick recap. First and foremost, identify the situation. Know that it's your responsibility to step in, take action, and use it as a learning opportunity, not as a way to reprimand anybody. The person who has high anxiety or is high temper, you have to remove them from the situation. And now, whatever accident that happened, make sure that your children are a part of the cleanup. It would not have been the same if I had said, go outside and play. Let me fix this. No, they have to be a part of the solution. And lastly, you can teach them. Teach them that it's okay. Some people feel anxiety over different things. And I don't want you to learn and develop that anxiety. That's why we're working on this together. It's okay to make accidents because it's an opportunity for us to learn and to grow. All right, that's it. It was, I think, a beautiful moment for the family today, even though it had to do with poop. But when you're dealing with kids, there's poop all around. So I hope that was helpful to you, and I'll catch you on the next one.